Good afternoon, everyone. I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and welcome to Artists of Color, an art and cultural program that speaks to and about artists of color within the Roxbury and Lower Dorchester area. And I'm glad you're with us today. And I would like to welcome my guests, Nyacko Pearl Perry
Lovely name.
and Theresa Fortilius.
That's me.
I have a problem with her name, but that's okay. She's my bud.
That's right.
It's true. It's true.
And these two wonderful ladies are from Yin Consulting, which is an organizational health
Yes, we focus on organizational healing.
organizational healing.
Yes.
Okay. First thing I want to ask you, because Artists of Color
Yes.
is a program that speaks to art and speaks to artists of color, I would like to know, can you tell me and tell my audience how art would fit into a program like yours?
Yeah, so I'll just start with our focus is on organizational healing. So we're trying to help organizations look at some of the challenges that they're having and to bring in this element of listening and understanding the experiences of their employees and then making a creative shift within their organization and a cultural shift. And so for us, our whole existence is actually a form of art. So it's not that our art doesn't look like, drawing a picture or some other type of expression, but we are not taking the conventional consulting route.
Okay.
It is our focus that when we work with an organization, we're working with a creative approach of some kind. Specifically around the type of techniques that we use. So we use a lot of yoga and art expression, and then in general, just using different mediums as a way to get perspective from people. That's really our focus.
Yeah, definitely. And I would also add, we work with a lot of different organizations, but I think within the Boston area and beyond, there are a ton of organizations that support youth and adults through art. And so there's definitely kind of space for us to kind of work with them as well. So I think it kind of goes just above and beyond the gamut of kind of just working with everyone.
What are, if I dare to ask, what are some of the organizations that you've worked with?
Unfortunately, we can't share that. The only
Okay.
organization I can share, because they've been very open and we've had a relationship with them for a long time, is Afro-Flow Yoga, which is
Right.
also a very creative approach
Yes.
as well. And they've just done incredible work in the community of doing
Absolutely.
dance and art and yoga together as a
Yeah.
way of doing their own healing work. So we've had the pleasure of working with them. But in terms of other clients, because a lot of the work that we tend to do is just very personal and it's
Personal.
unique to the experience of each organization, we don't generally share that.
I understand. I do understand. So, what is your mission? What is your mission?
Yeah, so our mission is to ultimately, I would say on a vision level, on a much bigger level, it's like we just want to see a healthier world for people. And then on the mission level, it's we want to see organizations just operate better. And they operate better when people that work in the organization are happy and healthy. And I think that there's a disconnect in a lot of organizations of really getting an understanding of what the employees actually want and what they need. And so there's a lot of assumptions about what they think an organization or an employee really needs to thrive.
Right.
Without actually asking them. And so we're kind of there to hold that extra role of, hold on, let's take a moment and ask all your employees and spend time with them and ask them what their unique needs are, and then develop a strategy around that. And that can fit into your broader goals and your broader desires. And at least you're acknowledging them, because when employees are acknowledged, they're going to operate better. They're going to perform better. For us, it's such a logical approach.
Right.
But unfortunately, it just seems to be a very common thing that doesn't happen.
And to add
That's
to
very
that, I
true.
would say definitely organizations that focus on working with people that are in different communities.
Yes.
When you think about direct services, you think about people that are kind of on the front line doing the grassroots work and really connecting with the folks that are in the different neighborhoods. When those people don't feel well, it makes it more difficult for them to support the community. And so the idea is that if we heal the entire ecosystem, it's, if we heal the organization, we support the staff in their healing, and then they can support the community in its, own healing.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. When Yin Consulting started, was that your overall plan? That's what you came in full force to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you about our origin story.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the main thing, what would happen is, so Theresa is one of my dearest friends. We've been friends for over 11 years now.
Yeah, I think maybe 12, 13.
Yeah, we might be on 12.
I don't expect you to remember.
So we've been friends for a very long time. And then we have another friend of ours, Priscilla, and the three of us were, we all are ambitious women. We're women that worked in leadership in either nonprofit, even corporate, Priscilla is running her own business as well. So we're thriving, we're in terms of our professional mobility, but at the same time feeling an incredible sense of disrespect, stress, lack of acknowledgement. And a lot of that was around our identity as women of color, sometimes our age. So because of that, for years, I think for maybe 2 years, we would meet up, have dinner together, and just support each other and talk about our experiences and hold space for one another.
Right.
This whole process of listening, right?
Yes.
And then at some point we said, well, let's do something about it. Let's stop, we can continue to support each other and that's good. But how can we actually start to shift it? Because it seems like a missed opportunity for organizations to not know that there's all this stress and all this discomfort that's happening for people, specifically people of color or people that are from disenfranchised identities. So.
And I would add that, it's harder when you're in the system and working in a system to speak up sometimes because,
because
rent is always due on the 1st, and mortgages also tend to be due on the 1st.
That's right.
So you don't always kind of have the liberty to speak, and so being a consultant and going into different organizations and supporting them in that way, it allows us to be honest, it allows us to be transparent and to be able to support the organizations, but we don't work there full time.
Right.
So we don't,
Right.
all we have to
Exactly.
gain is kind of their growth and their excellence building.
Yeah.
But we don't lose out on, a job, we don't get fired, there's no retaliation because they have sought us out to come and support their
them.
initiatives.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah, so it's a paradigm shift as well for us.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What is the overall, or should I first say, how long have you all been doing this?
Yeah, so Yin Consulting has formally existed since 2018.
Oh, okay.
Myself, so I have a master's degree in organization development, and so that's essentially consulting. Okay, I see you.
Speak. Go ahead.
So I had been, my degree is in consulting. That's a lot of, so we kind of learn techniques about how you go into a client system, what's sort of the typical process that you might do with them. So I've had that, skill that I've been cultivating. And so I started working for other people and assisting them on their projects. So even before Yin Consulting, I've had the opportunity to consult. And so that's how I started to think about, well, this could actually be something that we all did together and we could potentially do full time.
Okay.
And one thing I think that was really interesting, being one of her close friends, is kind of her watching grow through that process. And I think while Priscilla and I, this was the first time that we were both formally consultants, it allowed us to see that, because I think the idea that I've always had of what a consultant was like an older white man who has retired and is now going back and doing
He's giving
something
his
for
knowledge.
fun. And and it's not a great, that's just typically what I saw. So Nyacko kind of showed us that, we've worked in industries for almost 10 years. We've done, whether it be youth development, community engagement, all these different things, that we have skills that we can show organizations kind of how to be better and to grow. And so she's kind of, took us under her, wing, and we've kind of just.
Okay, I don't know about all that.
I mean, she's helped us kind of shift the way that we think about what a consultant is.
Yes.
And so, if you ask me, in 2017, I'd be like, oh, I'm not a consultant. I'm just a woman that works at a place, and I do that well, right? But in 2020, I'm like, I know how to engage with people. I know how to do a proposal. I know how to have those conversations and kind of how to go through that process. And so I think she just really supported me in kind of just understanding that, you know, a consultant is not what you always thought it was. This is another means of kind of being able to support people and doing it on your terms.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is your form of consulting?
So it's organization development, which is called process consulting.
Okay.
So process consulting is basically, there's different kinds of consultants. So one would be an expert consultant that you would hire because you have a very specific need, like a tech consultant. So you would say, okay, I need you to fix this in my computer and make it work. And then I'm gonna walk away.
Please make it work.
You know, make it work, and then I use it, and it's gonna be great, right? Whereas with a process consultant, we're not here to do the work for you. That's not, our goal is to give you the tools and give you the information so that you can make informed decisions and ultimately do your own change process. Because we know that organizations, they don't change when somebody else just like gives them a handbook, like, here you go, this is how you're supposed to do it. But kind of leading them through a process of learning, of getting the insights. And so a big part, a really major part of our consulting is doing data collection within an organization. And so we will do interviews with people that work in the organization, to people that are being served by the organization, to sometimes affiliate organizations. And the goal of that is to really give insights to the organization that they can use.
Okay. Where does the healing process come in? Where does that come
The
in?
beginning.
Yeah, so it starts from the beginning. A lot of times I will do an assessment of an organization that is through the data, where we're trying to understand just what is the current state of healing and health within the organization. And so actually in my grad program, I designed an organizational healing framework. And it's loosely based on the chakra system, but it essentially is just looking at different levels of the organization and trying to get a feel for how each of those parts are, you know, how they're feeling. And so I'll just run through them quickly. There are 7 of them, but I'll make it fast. So the first thing that we're looking at in the organization is foundation. So we're looking at, you know, what is the stability of this organization? How are they? Are they in a building that is physically safe and sustainable? You know, some people are operating in buildings that are
not
like,
safe.
yeah, that are literally not safe.
That's true.
Literally falling apart. To financial stability, you know, is this an organization that is dependent on funding, that's struggling in that aspect, and that's going to influence how everybody in the organization feels.
Absolutely.
Have they recently gone through a change where, you know, they've lost employees or they've merged with another organization? So this is all around what is the state of stability. The next area that we look at is emotions and people's emotional health. And what we're curious there really is what emotions are acceptable to be expressed and are there ones that aren't? So in some organizations, it's okay to be angry. It's totally fine to have attitude, to be upset, but it's not okay to express sadness or other types of emotions. And so, so we're really curious about like what is the state of emotional intelligence within that organization. The next thing that we look at is power. We're looking at who has power within this organization. And it doesn't have to be, you know, people that have formal power. Sometimes there are people in the organization that have power because they can connect one department to another.
Right.
So they're that connecting point, right? So like, so the executive assistant, for example, there's a lot of power there, even if that's not in their formal title. The next thing that we look at is relationships, the state of relationships. When you're working with your colleagues, are these your closest friends that you love spending time with, or can you not wait to leave the office so you don't have to see their face? You know, so, and there's different extremes in that, but just want to understand, you know, is this somebody that you trust? Because it's really difficult to have a functioning, healthy organization when there's a lack of trust, when there's a lack of clear understanding. The next area, and so you'll notice I'm kind of moving up here, so I'm moving here to the throat. And this is about communication. So what's the quality of communication? How well are you able to communicate? Is there a lot of passive aggressive energy in the way that people communicate? per my last email, that kind of thing where
Per
you
my
find,
last email,
which
y'all.
is a sign of basically irritation
Right.
and misunderstanding. And so we're trying to understand what's that state of communication and how can that be strengthened. And then the last thing is we're looking at how well does the organization look and see itself. So if there is something wrong in the organization, does everyone know that? Does everyone know, there's an issue with communication here? Or maybe at different levels, there's different levels of understanding of what is the state and the health of the organization. And then, the big broader thing is with all of this, all these different elements, then what is our assessment of the full organization? And that's usually what we'll put together for the client, of just giving them a picture of these different parts of the system. So that's part of where the healing comes from.
Okay.
And I would say that what makes the process really interesting is that depending on the organization and who is a part of that system, if you ask leadership, is everything okay? Is everything fine? They might tell you yes.
Yes.
If you ask upper management, they might tell you yes. If you ask the people below that,
they
and
might
they're
tell you.
all saying a resounding no, there's something wrong with so many in different things. So the way that we do it, we speak to everyone. So say it's a service organization, the people that are being serviced, the people that are delivering that, the managers of that, the executive level, to get a full comprehensive assessment of what the organization does well and what it maybe needs to work on and what might be some barriers.
Yeah.
Now, with that, in order that you've gone through all the assessments and talking with upper levels and down levels and the folks at the bottom, basically, I know you do workshops.
Yeah.
So what types of workshops do you do?
Yeah, so that's where some of the art and the creativity
Yes.
can really come through. So usually what we'll do, the first thing we have to do after the assessment is we have to go back to the leadership.
Oh,
and we have
okay.
to say, here's your report.
Right.
And we're gonna then work with them and say, how do you want to deliver this information back to everyone in your organization? What's
Okay.
the best way to do that? And a lot of times they'll say, it's a workshop, it's where all of us as an organization come together or major departments come together. And then we want to do something creative around these different themes. So if the theme is communication, maybe we'll have people work in groups and draw out, if you could draw out what does communication look like within our organization, do that, right? Or sometimes it's working in a group and doing some kind of art expression or some kind of theater expression of how they feel in the organization. So it really could be anything, and what we're trying to figure out is what's going to work in this particular group.
Yeah.
And sometimes we always come with multiple ideas in our head in case
okay.
something maybe doesn't work. I was surprised one time I went into a health organization and they were totally open to yoga and mindfulness and breath work, and that really seemed to help them in thinking about some of these concepts and ideas. And I was surprised by that. And I had 2 or 3 different ideas where I was like, if this doesn't work,
Then maybe I can do this.
We'll do something else. We'll do something else that's creative. But I think for us, it's we want to make sure that we're using all parts of the human being. So it's not just an intellectual conversation. It could be a body conversation where there's movement. Sometimes we'll play music in between sessions so people have a chance to just shake it out. Because when we're talking about organizational healing, a lot of times we're talking about organizational trauma. And trauma lives in the body.
True.
So it needs to be worked
Very
out
true.
somehow. Yeah.
Now that we've talked about that and what types of artistic, besides yoga and do you use visual art at any point in time?
Yeah.
And who are some of the people that work with you in your workshops?
Yeah, when we do the art, there's some, I won't give the names now, but there's some people that we would contract, a popular thing is graphic facilitation, and that's where someone will come in. So as we're presenting the data, that person would come in and start drawing out the data. So as we're talking about it, they're doing a physical representation of it. So that's one example. And then also, I like to also have other people, people that are within the organization,
Yeah.
do
Right.
their own visual
art.
representations of what those things might be. A lot of times, after they receive all this data, what we're trying to have them do is design a vision for what they want to create next. So they've seen the past, they have an understanding of the current state.
Okay.
What do they want to design next? And that can be a very, art-related
Yes.
activity, whether it's drawing, whether that's writing poetry about it, whether that's, that can
okay.
mean so many
Right.
different things. And
Don't
sometimes,
worry.
and sometimes we'll give them different mediums. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you want to draw a picture about it, you want to do some sort of dance about it,
Right,
whatever.
a stage piece, whatever
Sure.
that might be.
And I think in the same way that people learn differently, people
Yeah.
are stronger at expressing themselves. Not everyone's great verbally. Not everybody's
true.
great at writing out their feelings, through words. Some people maybe do it through music. Some people maybe do it through dance. Some people maybe do it through a lot of different things. So it really is, I think, what makes it hard to answer like in a finite way is just that you have to curate it to the organization and then to that specific group that you're working with, because you have to kind of pick up on these are kind of the things that I'm seeing. Okay, like everyone's a little bit tight. Maybe we should get up and do a little bit more
Right.
movement and see what kind of shifts after you kind of shake it out, as Nyacko said.
Okay. All right. When you've done when you've done the process and you've brought all that information back to, the organizational higher ups, as I would say,
Sure.
what purpose would you like to see happen? What kind of,
Yeah.
what would you like to see the outcome be?
Yeah, what I experience a lot, and I think what we've seen, is an emotional response to the information that's shared. So it's not just, oh, okay, yeah, I guess we need to work there. It's I want them to feel that experience, what it means to be at a different level within the organization, because the change is going to happen when people can feel each other, when they can understand where somebody else is coming from in their experience.
Okay.
I don't disagree. And I think really regardless of your intersection, if you're a part of a marginalized community, like if there are very few people of color at an organization and it's very dominated by, by people that are, white, they most likely don't
They
understand what
won't
it's
get
like
it.
to operate in the world, let alone within this specific, like workspace. And so
Exactly.
by us being able to provide data proven, just concrete data and a report, it kind of just says like you can't deny this anymore. So we don't have control over what they do with it, but the hope is that they at least you went out of the way to find an organization that will support you to do that work. So the idea is that we hope that you continue, like if you don't do it, like with us, that you make it an intentional thing as you
be
move
part of-
forward. To just keep that in mind as you make decisions and different things, and just not forget that, oh, just do anything and see what happens. Just be more intentional around the way that you make, decisions. And just be mindful of how things that you do impact the people that work in your organization from the top all the way to the
Down
bottom.
to the bottom.
Yep.
Do you find culture plays a part in organizations? In
It's all
organizational-
culture.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you find that there are, that there are other cultures more, I want to say not strongly opinionated than others, or that they feel like their culture is neither one, not being represented, or not being heard?
Now, do you mean organizational culture, or like the way that people identify?
The cultures that, not the organizational more, but more of those that work in the organization, because
Yeah.
those are the people that you're trying to get to be vocal.
Exactly, yeah. One example is, so a healthcare organization, most of the clients that they were serving were actually African immigrants, more than 50%. And there was a huge
see.
disconnect between the services that they were offering, which is a very Western approach to what would be more acceptable towards that particular culture. And so a big shift that organization made after we did work with them was, how do we be more culturally responsive and think about how do we create we might offer similar services, but how do we have an approach that's more realistic for this client system?
Okay. I want to talk more about that, but we're going to go to a break and we're going to come back and we're going to continue our conversation. We'll be right back.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry, I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. It's time to start saving now. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
Good afternoon. I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and welcome back to Artists of Color. As I'm sure today you can see that we're doing a little bit of a change in how we're having our show, because I felt that art and health and organizational management was something that I thought would be very informative to any of my audience that might be out there and who's probably watching or listening. So that is the reason I asked Nyacko Pearl Perry and dear Miss Theresa Fortilius to come on my show today. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I am glad you came.
We are as well.
And we were talking about organizational culture and the cultures of the people that the organizations serve, and including those that work in those organizations. Now, we're going to take a little bit of well, actually, it isn't a little bit of a move to the side, but I think it's important. Nyacko is going to talk about a restaurant that she's part of that's going to be opening up in the community called Comfort Kitchen. I've been there, and I was there at the presentation, and I want her to talk a little bit about that, because she's putting this, her and her husband and Theresa are all going to be, this restaurant is being opened up in the community of color.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's amazing.
Yes.
So let's talk about how that works.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So, I mean, the reason why I want to talk a little about Comfort Kitchen is because the approach that we took to Comfort Kitchen is very similar to the approach that we take within consulting, which is community data and asking people what they want. So we had some very special guests join us for those interviews.
Oh, yes. We did, didn't we?
Miss Elaine. Okay.
I was one of those guests.
I was there. So before we even knew that this option of actually opening a restaurant was possible, Bipla, my husband, and I had been thinking a lot about just a desire to kind of combine our skills. So he was the co-owner of Dudley Cafe. He's kind of in this food industry and food space, and then I'm coming from organizational structure and healing, and I think we both have a desire for just creating a restaurant that is innovative and really different, because the food industry can be quite abusive. And
yes, it can be.
Indeed. So our approach was, first just wanting to understand, what does our community want and need, because we don't want to put something that nobody's interested in. And so we started doing these community interviews, and again, we didn't even know that this restaurant was a possibility. We were just asking people.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay. So
Continue.
we did interviews with about 18 people in the community, and we looked for people that were from different extremes. So those that lived in Dorchester and Roxbury their whole lives, to people that are going to school there, to people that just recently moved there, to people that own property. We're looking for just the gamut of experience and life. And then after we did the interviews, we looked for themes. and what are the main themes between all these different experiences. And so when we did these interviews, we found that a lot of people were looking for a food experience that was a bit elevated, where instead of having to cross the river to go to a fancy restaurant, they wanted to be able to go to their neighborhood and dress up and have a nice night out with their friends.
A nice restaurant
That's
right there
right.
in their own community. Why
sit
not?
down. Yep, exactly. And also looking for culturally responsive food experiences as well. So they didn't want to eat the same thing that they had been eating. They want to learn about different cultures through food. They're also looking for a multi-generational space. So people from all different ages to be able to be at the space at the same time. And so there was all these themes that came up, and right when we finished doing these interviews and we had the community synthesis event, BIPLA got reached out to, and there was a space available. And so right at the same time, we said, okay, we have to combine these things, and we have to bring these insights.
That's okay.
Yes, and we have to bring these ideas and bring them to life and give the community what they said they wanted. So that's where Comfort Kitchen came in. And so Comfort Kitchen is really centered around 3 C's, which is community building, cross-cultural understanding, and collaboration through food. And so we brought in our head chef, who is Kwasi Kwa, Mr. Kwasi Kwa.
Yeah.
Yes, and he is from Ghana originally, and my husband is from Nepal.
Right.
And so there's all this kind of desire to think about Africa and Asia and their different connections in terms of spices, and even through history, how these different places have been interconnected with each other. And so that's how it all came about. And then I'm coming in with, again, this idea of community engagement and ways to stay in relationship with the community in that process. And so we are slated to open in September 2020.
Oh, okay.
Is our hope.
Yes, we're hoping.
Still working on it, but
okay, good.
that is Comfort Kitchen. And so for us also, we're hoping that it's a community space and it's an artist space as well. So.
Oh, all right. See, that part I didn't realize. How is, you said just now, you said it, an artist space as well.
Yes.
How would that work?
Yeah, so first of all, we want to have a performance space. So we're going to have a small stage. So music performances, poetry, comedy, all sorts of artist expression in that way. And then we'll definitely have people that are going to be featured on our wall and having their own residencies as well. Yes. So.
Will you be reaching out to the artists within the communities?
Of course.
That you'll be serving?
Yes, ma'am.
I remember, because I was at the presentation that you did last year.
Yes.
And I listened to how you talked about what you wanted to know, what the community wanted to see at the Comfort Kitchen.
Yeah.
And I looked at I've seen the space.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen it because I haven't been in there yet, but I've seen
Soon come.
But you guys are, I saw the shell being put together.
Yeah.
And is it going to be 2 floors?
Yes.
Now, how is that going, explain why 2 floors?
Okay, well, because there's 2 floors in the building.
Right.
The building is pretty small. So we have
Yes.
969 square feet on the top floor, and then the same on the bottom floor.
Okay.
So we'll have about 35 seats on the upstairs. We'll have a small, a full kitchen, but it will be pretty small. And then we will have a small intimate dining space in there as well, so people can have a little bit of their own private space. And then when you come downstairs, we're going to have space for having some cooking classes. So some ways that we can share the cooking experience with folks. And we'll also have a private dining space as well. And then we'll have all the other stuff we need to operate our business, like an office and whatnot.
Now, you said you're going to have 35 seating upstairs, and then you're going to have a small dining area downstairs?
Yes.
When you say private dining, is that going to be for people that want to have, in some type of, party or
Yeah,
know,
if they
or
want to have a
or a
birthday party
meeting
or they
or-
want to have meetings,
Okay.
you know, if people want to have community meetings. It's just so people can feel a sense of privacy.
Yes.
And
right.
then also so people can have their own curated thing as well. So if somebody wants to have a birthday and they want us to design a menu for them or do something special for them, we can do that as well.
Now
Yeah.
tell me about the cooking classes.
yes.
Explain that part.
So the cooking classes, I won't be cooking.
You
but
won't be cooking? Why not?
That is not my contribution to Comfort
She's a
Kitchen.
good cook. Don't believe her.
I mean, I can cook,
Is-
but you
is
know,
Quasi
it's
gonna
a different thing. So Quasi will be doing some classes, and then
Good.
also we'll have a very special guest.
Oh, okay.
Very special guest, and that is Bipla, my husband's mom.
My favorite.
Oh, Mom.
Yeah, so mom.
I know Mom.
Yeah,
do
you
know
know mom.
I know Mom. Mom's food is good. too.
Mom's food is real good.
Mom's
so
food is amazing.
Mom's food is
Okay, you
amazing.
know it.
Okay. So mom will also be doing some traditional Nepali things as well. Maybe you'll learn how to make momos.
I
and
want to
some
learn to
different
make
things.
momo.
Yes.
I just want her to make them for me.
I know, me too.
I'm like, no,
Some
thank
people
you.
are
No,
not going
they
to want the
Mom,
classes.
please make momo.
They'll just want,
No,
yes.
I'll buy them.
Right.
I think I told my friend about momo. She says, "You didn't bring me any." I know. I said they tried to give me a whole pot, but I figured I'd save some for somebody else. But
Next
momo's
time.
good. I'm
Yeah,
telling
momo's
you.
real good. And that was a vegetarian one. And
It was.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
pretty
I'm
good.
sorry. It was delicious.
that's right.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Mom's gonna do that too.
Yeah, we're getting.
that's
We're getting
wonderful.
mom.
There
Yeah.
you go. You gotta.
Yeah.
What are you going to, you mentioned, again, I'm going back because we talked about different types of art and that you're going to have artists that are going to have their works on the walls. You're going to have a small stage area.
Yeah.
What type, do you know what you want to do as far as the art is concerned? Like what types of stage plays, what type
Yeah.
of poetry, you know, do you
I
have
mean,
an idea of
The
how
only
that
thing,
works?
the only thing that we know is like our space is going to be intimate. So when we think about it, it's like, okay, we don't want to have. This is not going to be the newest club.
A 5-stage
unfortunately. Yeah.
play?
Yeah. This is not.
Okay,
This is not going to be. This is not going to be something where it's like, oh, a lot of people like having a
Yeah,
huge
see.
party, you know. But I think we can really. What my desire is I want it to be a very. Just like a romantic place.
There you go. I like
So
that.
that's the kind of experience that I'm hoping for. So whether it's poetry, whether it's music, it's like it's an intimate, smaller space, but people can really feel comfortable where they are. They're going to be close to the people around them. So it's a little more intimate. It's cozy. That's my hope.
romantic.
It's romantic.
Do you want to do to a bed?
We're being good.
Yeah,
Love
we're
you
being very
dearly,
good
but-
today.
You okay, Theresa?
I'm sitting here smiling and I'm nodding. I'm behaving.
Do
Yes.
you? Are you going to have like evening, like
Yes.
jazz in
Yes.
the evening?
Oh
and-
yes, I said
and
romantic.
R&B? I heard.
Okay, I said
I'm just
romantic,
trying to help
Elaine.
here. I'm checking.
Yes. we
Have
will.
you begun to put that information about the Comfort Kitchen out there to musicians and artists to let them know, hey, you're going to be part of this. We want you to be part of this.
Yeah.
You know, how is that working? I mean, I realize you're the marketing lady.
Oh, am I? Oh,
Yeah, that they-
No. I will add that we do have a wonderful branding and marketing person that we've been working with, who is
Oh.
actually Quasi's wife, Rita.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, Rita's doing
Yeah.
it?
So she did all our branding.
She
and
did all the
our
branding?
things, yeah.
Okay.
But in terms of reaching out to artists, so we're trying to be active in that, definitely in social media and other means. But for us also, it's like we want to create the container, and then we want people to just come to us and be like, we want to do something, and we'll say, great, like perfect, like what do you
Yes.
need to do that? So our goal, is to make sure that everybody knows this space is accessible to them, it is
That's-
available. And anything you want to do, we will work with you. We'll create something. Let's do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What is going to be parking going to be like there?
Well, there's parking right in front of the place. A lot of people, it doesn't look like it, but there's
No.
actually like at least 8 spots that can be right in front of the place. And then across the street, there's a parking lot as well. So
Oh,
and
there
there's-
is.
There's,
See, I've never
there's a
really.
fair amount of street parking
Yeah,
as
there's a
well.
lot of street parking at Opens Corner.
Okay, because I never realized there was
Yeah, people don't know
enough
that.
parking.
I know.
No, there
And
is.
I lived up there at one point in
I
time.
know. People-
Years I did, back in 1982. I'm not gonna lie. But I never knew that because it always looked like parking was so hard up there.
Yeah.
So that's why I was wondering what
I
parking
know.
would
A
be
lot of
like.
people think that, though.
Between Stoughton Street, Dudley, and the side street, there's plenty. I've been to Opens Corner for plenty of events, like Fairmont Lab, like
Labs,
the Strand.
yeah.
I'm like, if the
Right.
Strand can have a big event and hold people, I'm like, we can fill the restaurant.
Okay, we can fill the
and get the
restaurant.
cars going. So
All
I
right.
think we'll be okay. I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm not concerned about the parking. I'll be there.
Teresa will be there.
Yes, Theresa will be there.
I'm smiling, saying hello as you enter.
Teresa, stop.
That's right. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention Comfort Kitchen, but I definitely want to, because for me, it's like, these are like my two passions. Comfort
I
Kitchen
know
is its
that.
own baby, and then Yin Consulting is its own
Its own
baby
baby,
too.
too.
We've had a very successful year so far. We're in February, we have 3 gigs that we're managing right now. So
Really?
it's a big, yeah.
Wow.
So it's been, because I think we're being very explicit about who we are in
Right.
consulting, that we're not taking the conventional approach.
Right.
We care about healing. And I think even the word healing in consulting, that's a unique approach. That's a unique
That
take on it.
is.
Not everybody is.
Why did you name the company Yin?
Yeah, so Yin Consulting, so for me, I've been a yoga teacher for a long time, and Yin is about the feminine approach.
Right.
And that's our approach
Okay,
to
the
consulting.
feminine approach.
The feminine approach. And so it always says like, the feminine allows things to happen, and the masculine makes things occur.
Okay.
Right. So with the feminine, we're like creating the space. So we're creating the healing, we're creating the container for things so that they can naturally happen. Not that we have to push them, not that we just need to let everybody shed what they need to and be in the space
Right.
so that they can show up fully. So that's really our approach, is we just think, there needs to be more feminine energy in the business world. And we think that businesses will be better for it. They will have more profitability for having more of an understanding of what are the feelings within their organization.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. It's just like, you think of it that way, because I'm always trying to, whereas I have the things that I do, like I do my television show here.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm that part of the artistic world, and it's my feminine piece, because
Yeah.
Artists of Color is an art and cultural program.
Yes.
And I want to be able to, and art can be both feminine and masculine.
Yes.
But from my perspective,
Yeah.
I want to have that feminine voice, that female voice, which is why I do what I do here. And and I want to see art grow. And now that I see that, you guys are doing Comfort Kitchen, and that you're doing healing with organizational management and health, I see it as a a moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving forward. What, from the two of you, tell me, what are your plans as far as consulting, organizational consulting and health is concerned? What do you want to see happen with the organizations and the people that you're serving? I
So
thought that
many
might work.
things. But I mean,
that
one
might work.
thing, one kind of major thing right now is that diversity, inclusion, diversity and equity. That's a huge, it's like a huge moneymaker. It's a huge piece where
It's a
people,
buzzword.
because we have so many, every organization, and I would argue every human being is struggling with that experience of diversity and equity, and how do you create balance. And unfortunately, what is happening right now in most organizations is that they're all investing in having diversity and inclusion consultants come in, And the statistics that recently came out are that organizations are worse for it, which means that they bring in these diversity and inclusion consultants.
They're not
and
bringing
by
in the right ones.
They're not bringing the right ones.
Okay, because
And-
when you're listening to that, that's what I hear.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's so devastating. First of all, it's devastating because
Right.
that means, they actually invested some money and supposedly tried to do something. And I can't imagine what's the experience of the employee
Right.
that desperately needs this
That-
organization to get it together so that they can thrive.
Thrive, exactly.
And they have had worse results. And so for us, we know that there's a missing piece here of the whole part of the human being, not just the intellectual, not just the brain, but the heart and the body. And so for us, when we go into organizations, I want to see real change. I want to see people really feeling each other and understanding what the person next to them is experiencing on a real level. And that is how an organization is really going to shift and do the kinds of things they need to do to have a thriving organization.
That's a loaded question. I think one thing I wanted to add about the other piece is that I just want to be very clear that a feminine approach has nothing to do with gender.
Right.
No,
'cause
it
as
doesn't.
it is the three
Right.
of us and Bipla, and he's very much a man, but it's more so
Yes.
an energy. So I just wanted to be very clear
Yes,
about
yes,
that.
thank you.
Yes.
But I think as it pertains to what I want to see, I think the frustrating part about, because people hire the diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, but they also hire people to be in these buildings and to be with you every day that are supposed to support you and kind of shift the change, and they don't.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, people think that diversity just means, okay, we have women, there are people of color, there are different able-bodied and not able-bodied, there are LGBTQIA folk. Just because you have the people in the building and in the spaces doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean equity. If those people don't feel comfortable
That's
speaking up
right.
and speaking out without being
Right.
retaliated against
That's right.
or
That's
having their
true.
jobs in jeopardy, it doesn't count.
That's right.
That's not inclusion. That's the polar opposite
Instead
of
of
that.
inclusion.
So actually seeing that be real. And so people, we have a DEI person. Great. Look at all this work that we've done and just have it be real. I think too often organizations, a thing will happen that will catalyze them to bring in someone, whether it's a consultant or a direct hire. And it's kind of to put a Band-Aid over whatever has happened. And so it's look, we fixed it, right? And that's only the beginning of the
That's right.
work. And I would argue also, if you don't even know what appropriate DEI work looks like, how do you even seek the appropriate people out?
That's right.
It's like you just hit Google and the first person that comes up.
Yeah,
you
or the
told
most
them.
expensive person.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go, the most
You
expensive
know,
person.
And so I think just in a perfect world, I think the more intersections you have as an individual, the harder it is to navigate the world, let alone the workplace. And so, there's a lot of privileges that I carry, but within my intersections as being first generation, being a woman, being a Black woman, or dark-skinned woman, I mean, there's a lot of different things. Being a larger woman, there's a lot of intersections and I've seen that have been really traumatic in my experience professionally, personally, and all that. So being able to see people navigate through that and come out on the other side, not traumatized, by work.
Yeah.
No one gets paid
Yes.
enough to be traumatized.
I agree.
And then just to bring it back to the beginning, it's really hard to hit your bottom line, and whether that's people being served, whether that's, a for-profit organization, whatever the bottom line is, you're missing it if the people that you have in the organization don't feel like they matter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, absolutely. And the one piece that I'll add to that is, it's our approach always is that we want to work our way out of a job.
Right.
So when we leave, we don't want to have to be with an organization for a long time. We want to know
That they got it.
That they got it. And so that doesn't mean, coming to an end result, but actually awakening the consciousness of the organization, where I'm now attentive to how I show up in space,
Right.
why I make the decisions I
Right.
make. So that's really where our work is. And so we want to be there, and then we want to say, you're good, and we want to check in with you and know that you're able to do the work.
And stay
And Yeah, and say bye. And I think a lot of consultants, that's not their motive. Their motive is more work.
Right.
Yes.
More work, more money. More
Well,
work,
sorry, didn't work that time, so we're gonna try something
Yeah,
else.
let's try it
We'll be
again.
here a while.
Exactly.
What's the artistic approach? We're gonna go back to that. What is your artistic approach to what you do? What is the artistic approach to your consulting as Yin Consulting? What is your approach? What is your artistic approach?
Okay. Our
All right,
artistic,
the truth.
yeah, I mean, I feel like we said, but our artistic approach is basically, from the beginning, we're not doing consulting how you see consulting.
Right.
Our creative approach is,
There you go, creative.
creative approach is we think about the system, and like the first thing we'll do with a client is me and her will sit down and we'll think about like, what did it feel like being in that room? And so we'll say, okay, like I noticed that one person didn't make eye, like there was one, we went to a recent one where one girl, she didn't talk the whole time.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, we noticed that one person didn't have a voice.
Right.
We noticed that somebody else definitely had a voice. I wonder if there's a power thing there.
Then going.
Right.
We noticed, so all of these things, right? It's like, I think these are things that a lot of people aren't thinking about, but for us, it's like we're starting to see a picture and we're starting to get a feeling about what it feels like to be there and to work there. And so everything that we're doing is, in my opinion, creative.
Okay.
And then I think just the fact that no engagement is exactly the same.
Right.
I think all organizations are at a different part of their journey. And so there's nothing that we've done that is exactly the exact same way that we did it with someone else. So it is kind of like a funky dance of, okay, like we need this part, we need that part, maybe we don't need this part, but like really curating an experience that like really specifically meets the needs of what the organization is asking from us.
Yeah, that
And of
requires,
itself, yeah.
that requires creativity.
Yeah, it
For
does.
sure.
It does.
But I think also, it's around this idea of like, what do you consider an artist? Because it's like,
got it.
I'm not, we're not,
I can't draw.
you will not catch me ever drawing
But you have
anything.
artists that work with you.
Yeah, but also we are artists though. We are
Because
creative
of what
thinkers.
There you go. So that's artistic.
Yeah.
You're creative thinkers.
My
Because
proposals are beautiful.
Oh my gosh, they're
My
beautiful.
proposals are gorgeous.
I bet they are.
Yeah,
sure.
we've got a nice aesthetic.
We do. The color scheme is lovely.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
we could have
goodness.
that. We can talk about that creative element.
True. Our
I
colleague
want to
here,
know
she
about the
also
creative.
supports us. Well, you should invite our friend in for the next one. 'cause
Next
she
one.
actually has supported us as well with our creativity.
Yes,
Oh,
with
see,
our
there
branding
we
She
as
also
well,
wears
yeah.
many hats.
I bet she does
Yes,
too.
Yeah.
yes. Our circle is fun.
It's a good circle.
I am actually very grateful and very thankful that you both came. Thank you, Nyacko.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Theresa. Thank you. It was good to have you.
It's wonderful to be here.
Good
Thank
to
you.
have you back.
Yes.
Because we gotta get the information out, and we want to be able to say that community and culture and employees and employers and organizations,
Yes.
we have to be together.
Yes.
And we have to work in a way that's culturally diverse
Yes.
and culturally understood. And to me, that's important.
That's right. And we need more creativity in organizations.
Yes, we do.
We need creative outlets for employees. We need ways in which they can engage more parts of themselves at
Right.
work.
Thank you.
That's right.
Well, ladies, thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
And I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and you have been watching Artists of Color. Please be with us again in March. On the 20th of March, we will be back, and we'll have another bunch of special guests for you to hear and talk to and call in and all those kind of wonderful things, because Artists of Color is about art, and it's about artists of color. Thank you, and have a great day.